Hi YouTube, this is Frisky Nipper Tutorials. Today I'm going to be showing you basically in depth how I make some of my songs. Well, I'm going to show you how I made the intro for the tutorial, as I've been getting a lot of requests for like, oh, what's this bass? How'd you do this? How'd you make that sound? How'd you do this? And well, I'm just going to run through it because quite a lot of people requested it, so it sounds like it could be helpful. I have no idea how long this video is going to be because I'm just going to talk you through it, what I think is necessary for you to hear. And I mean, I've got partnership now, so I've got unlimited video time, so we'll just see how it goes. But anyway, so this is the intro, which all of you will be very familiar with if you watch all my tutorials. So yeah, basically that's kind of like a drop, I suppose. It would be the drop because it is kind of dubstep, but it doesn't sound too heavy to me. I just kind of made it as a little jingle. But anyway, so to start off with, I would start off with the drums. Most certainly I would start off with the kick. So I'd flick through my samples, of which I've got a lot. I highly recommend Vengeance samples for drums and stuff. And then, so you'd find the kick you'd like, you drag it from your sample across. Let me just turn all the effects off this kick so you can hear what it sounds like. Alright, so this would be the raw kick. Basically what this does is you can see by the wave, it kind of takes out the end of it, makes it a bit more punchy, and then this one takes out the front of it. So for this kick I just took out a bit of the out to make it a bit more punchy, and then it started to sound like this. And then I added it to an effects channel, which is effects 6. So there's my kick. And basically, I usually compress most of my drums, but I didn't actually compress the kick on this one. But if you were to compress, you put the ratio, never go over 2 for your ratio. Threshold, you just got to mess around and get a nice sound out of it, basically. And then parametric EQ. For all kicks, this is a strict rule for me. You want it hitting at 100 Hz. This is actually quite an old, I made this quite a while back, so I'm kind of looking at this EQ and thinking what the hell, but basically you boost it at 100 Hz because that's where the kick gets its punch, and you'd filter it off, like so you take the sound out at around 60, maybe 80 Hz, because that's kind of like the gritty sound where your sub sits. Because basically the idea of EQing is you give each sound its individual space to like breathe, I suppose, like, and just play. Because imagine like when you go into a shopping mall and you hear everybody talking and you can't work out what each individual person is saying because there's so many people talking. Well, if you EQ it, then you give each person their own individual space to speak, so you'd be able to hear it clearer. That's the point of EQ. You take out the sounds you don't want and boost the sounds that you do want. So that was my kick. Don't let layer in is when you add more than one kick or snare or whatever, and you kind of merge them together to make one big sound. But I never do that with kicks. There is no point. It's really important to find the best samples you can from scratch and then just tweak them that little bit to make them sound that bit nicer. But with a kick you do not need to layer it. There is just no point. So once I've got my kick sounding nice, I would layer up some snares. So this was my first snare. Obviously that's got effects on that, I'll go into that in a second. Then I added in my second snare, third snare, fourth, fifth, sixth, basically that is a pretty huge, in fact I think I might take this one out. No, I'll leave it in. Basically that they've all been tweaked in their own individual ways. I'll go into that now. So for this snare I've taken a bit of the sound out at the end just to give a bit more punch. Then in the effects I put a compressor on it. Right, basically I'm just saying this now, I know I said earlier never go over the ratio of 2, but this was a while back and I didn't really know, but I mean it sounds alright now, but keep it in 2.0 really for all drums really, never go over. So yeah, I compressed that a bit until it sounds nice. Of course the only way you're ever going to get good sounds is by doing it by your ear. And then for the EQ, this is where another important rule comes in. Filter it all off, but then at around 200 Hertz boost it, because this is where the snares get their kind of punch from. So you'd have the kick sitting at 100 Hertz and the snare sitting at 200 Hertz. Remember that is important, because that is their own individual space. For me, that is how it all works for me. It's just where they sound best and where they're nice and apart. I mean, obviously you could have it at like 250, 150 for the snare or something, you know, like have it within the range of 200 Hertz, and for the snare, I mean for the kick, have it within the range of 100, but for the kick do not go below say like 80 Hertz, because you need somewhere for your sub to sit. So for that snare I just added compression and parametric EQ. For this snare, EQ, and then reverb, add that to your higher sounding snares. Basically if you add reverb to your lower sounding snares, then it just sounds messy and horrible. But if you add a nice little bit of reverb to the high pitched, well not high pitched, but like the more high end snares that you get and later, then it just gives a kind of nice fluent sound. Like if you can hear the reverb on there. Generally have my room size at 100, maybe 90, whatever decay, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, high end snares reverb, low end snares punch, basically. So once you've got your basic kick snare, oh hang on, you're going to need to add in some cymbals and stuff to spice it up. So got a crash, of which for cymbals generally just high pass the shit out of them. You don't want any bassy sounds because everything's going to be sitting around there. Yeah, honestly, just high pass for all cymbals. They're not too important in the mix. Well, they are. They kind of give it energy, but you can't actually hear it that well. It's just good to have kind of that's where you get all your cymbals will sit at the top end of your EQ spectrum, basically. So you see here, there's nothing coming below 2000 Hertz, I mean, you could even high pass it more to like there, but for this I've obviously just kept it how it is. Then after you've added in a few crashes or whatever, you'd add in a ride to this gives it the flow and I suppose the energy as well. If I find the ride, I'll show you what I've done for that. Hang on. So it's 5. So again, extremely high passed. If you find a nice ride but you find it doesn't sustain, like if it's like and it just doesn't give that kind of flowing effect, then just add a slight bit of reverb on it and it'll just I don't know, it'll just make it sound nicer. What else? This is kind of like a loop in a way, it's a hi-hat loop, but I just thought it was nice and I thought I'd add it in. So yeah, get your hats, whatever you want to use. I mean, in this instance I did use a loop, which is a bit cheeky, but just find a nice hi-hat sample and again high pass it. I think on this occasion I boosted it around here. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's because there's kind of like a clicky sound which just sounded nice. I mean, on the occasion you don't have to high pass everything, like all the cymbals, but for this occasion I did actually boost it in the low end because it sounded good. I mean, that's what you're going to find. It's just what sounds good, but generally speaking the rule is high pass your cymbals. Right, now we'll move on to the dubstep bass for it. So we've got here, right, my CPU is shocking on this, so we'll turn the subs off actually. Sub. Right, I'm gonna have to turn off all my drums because my CPU is shocking. Right. I know that didn't sound great, but I'm just saying now, my computer is shocking. Right. Basically, this is obviously a massive synth. That's generally what I use for all my basses, but I'm starting to fiddle around with other synths now, like FM8 and all that. I can't really be bothered to show you how I made the sound as such, but I will give you the preset and you can just look at all the settings and yeah, because this is more about how you'd set up the song, not the sounds, and I do quite a lot of massive tutorials. So I made this patch, and then because I'm not really a fan of the performers where you can change wobble speeds and like get really random sounds, what I do is I change the ratio like I make the sound, then I'd clone it, so I'd be there like clone, and then I'd get another one exactly the same set, right, that's a sub, never mind, with exactly the same settings, and I'd maybe tweak the cutoff a bit just to give it a bit of like a different sound, and then I'd change the ratio of the wobble so that you've got, you know, so it's not boring and it's got different wobble speeds. So that'll be all varied and stuff, good stuff. And then for the effects on these, freeze is cool, yeah. Sorry about this. Right. Generally speaking, right, I haven't on this. What a surprise. Oh no, I have. Right. I'd get all the all the basses that I just like made and changed the wobble speeds of, but they were the same bass but at different speeds, and I would group them to one mixer channel, and I'd EQ it. I actually didn't really see the point in EQing this too much. I just took out the low end for the sub and just left this as it was. And I'm just saying now, I mean, I haven't used any much external effects from the basses on this, but these days I would use maybe a sausage fattener, which fattens up the sound so much and makes the bass sound more in your face. That rhymed. Or I would use camel fat or camel crusher. Camel fat has just got loads of stuff on it, and camel crusher is like a free plugin with distortion on and loads of other kind of things. I find it's kind of different to OH Omnicide, which is just a distortion plugin, but this camel crusher's, I don't know, it is distortion, but it's in a different way to Omnicide. Oh right, you may not know what I'm going on about. This is kind of for more advanced people for all the external effects, but I'll give a link in the description for all the different programs I mentioned in this tutorial. So once you've done your basses and put your effects on, you're going to want to add in a sub, which just you filter everything out apart from, like, I don't know, 80 Hz down to 20 Hz. It's just a really confined low end space, which gives your mix just beef. It beefens everything up. Just makes, like, say you're going for a heavy dubstep song and you've got it all in and you add in a sub, it'll make it sound hench. But you've got to make sure that for the dubstep basses that you've made, that you cut off the low end, which leaves room for the sub, or else it's going to make your mix sound messy. So here's my sub channel. This is all very messy. I mean, I don't like my mix channel. I've got loads that aren't actually assigned to anything. I generally don't give a shit what my project looks like. At the end of the day, it's just what sound comes out at the end. So for this, right, I'm doing this now. This is old. It's just people ask for tutorial. I'm low pass and everything. I mean, high pass and everything. Right. That might be right. That still looks pretty shit, but you're just gonna have to ignore it. Alright. That's generally what you want. All that. Yeah, it even says up here, low bass. Well, that's where your sub's gonna be, isn't it? So have something like that. Well, not quite like that. This is kind of a bad example because this is really old. But it's what everyone's requested, so I'm just going into depth on this. So yeah, have your sub quite low, and then to make it sound more interesting, add in some leads and other kind of, you know, like high synths. I had these chords going throughout. So that was nice. I'll give you the preset in the description for that. It just kind of, I don't know, it just gives a nice sound to it. And then added in this nice lead line. With which I think I took out quite a lot of the low. Yeah, right. Around 700 Hz is kind of nice for leads, I suppose. You can dip it in places if there are frequencies you don't want, or you can boost it. In this instance, I decreased it at around 1500 Hz, just because it just sounded nice, and I think something else in my mix hit there quite a lot, so I gave it a bit of room to breathe. Going back to the chords, actually, I forgot to show you. I've EQ'd it, basically just a straight low pass. Got this coming out at around 700, but everything else just low passed off. But for this lead, I doubled it up with another lead, because that's quite a good thing to do sometimes. You have two individual lead patches and make them play in unison, and sometimes you can get, it will sound like one lead, but it will sound kind of different. So that's my kind of saw. That's my saw lead, and then I put it with this, and the saw is much more higher pitched, like it's like the high end of the lead, and then this lead is like the low end. So if you play them together, you know, I just think that sounds pretty nice. And then obviously I've got the high lead with nice reverb effects on it, which I just did in massive, which again I'll show you. Effects on this one, probably quite high pass, well, fairly high passed. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what I'm going on about here is EQ. Just make sure you know where every sound sits and how to make it sound good in a mix. Once I've made the whole song, I would go to the master. I always have Fruity Limiter on. I mean, I think it's just on the FL Studio thing. It just, like the natural, when you start a new song, it's always there. It makes your song sound louder, which is good. But basically, I'd go on my master, I'd add another EQ, click here, go on presets, and I'd add a 20 Hz and 18 kHz cut. What that does is it takes out everything at 20 Hz, which is too low for your mix. You don't actually want it in your song because it's just too low, you can't really hear it, and it just kind of adds a bit of mess. Same with the high end, it can be a bit harsh on your ears if it goes much higher than 18 kHz, so just always filter it off. And then recently I've been using this new plugin, well it's not new, but it's new to me, I found it recently, called Isotope Ozone 4. Right, don't worry, there's something wrong with it, but basically Ozone 4 is a mastering suite program where you just fiddle around with it. I mean, I don't actually know how to use it, I'm not gonna lie, I just mess around with it and add exciters and all that, and it makes your mix sound a lot better. And then yeah, that's for that. So that's what I would generally do with the master, just fiddle around with Isotope. And then the last thing that I think quite a lot of people were interested in is how I made the This Is a Frisky Nipper tutorial vocals, which is not actually on this for some random reason, so bear with me whilst I just try and find the tutorial like voice thing, because I've got it somewhere. Right, so this is my vocals.
This is Dave's key to exclusive tutorial.
Basically, turn off that for now. Basically, how I made it, I went onto this website, voice synthesizer. Yeah, so it's like called Voice Synthesizer. You type in what you want your sound to be, so I'd be there like, this is a frisky nipper tutorial. You can change the voices. I used Crystal for this one, if anyone's wondering. You download it, drop it in, and it would sound like this. This is what mine sounded like.
This
anyway.
is a frisky nipper exclusive tutorial.
Oh, yeah, that's got very right. And then to make it sound like this, I use a plugin which comes with FL Studio called Vocodex. Basically, all this is it's kind of like really weird and just really cool effects that you can put on voices. I don't really remember how I made it sound exactly like I did. Have a look. put that on bright, and then as you can hear, it sounds like a chord, and that you choose what notes down here you want it to play. So I could have it like, this is gonna sound not that good. Right, do you know what? Just so you can hear, I'm gonna add in loads. This is gonna sound horrible. Add in the sharps as well.
This is Aries Key Nibble exclusive tutorial.
Basically, find a nice chord that you want it to be.
This is
So I think mine was that, wasn't it? Yeah. I had my wet on full. I can't remember. I think I just chose a preset, to be honest, and tweaked it. So I'm pretty sure I just used like backing voices or something like that, and then this was probably just like that, and then I added in the chords, well, the 2 tonics or whatever. Then for vocals, generally add a little bit of reverb, make it sound bigger, and then pitcher. All pitcher comes free with FL Studio again. It auto tunes, well, not it like it's pitch correction basically. This will show you what pitch it's originally in, and this side will correct it. Yeah, basically that's quite simple to use. Then what a surprise, EQ, the most important thing. Just got rid of the low end and high end, just not affecting the vocals too much because you don't want to EQ it. And then delay on the last bit. And then of course I added it with the song, and that's what I got. So yeah, this has been quite a huge tutorial. I've just been chatting away, giving my general knowledge of how I make music. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned something from it. If anybody's got any more requests, then just send me a message. I'll probably upload a massive tutorial as well in a minute. Yeah, thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, visit my main channel. I'll see you later.